Hello and welcome to the hard sell, where the stick in the swill-bucket rattles back. None of us, except maybe one or two jammy bastards, have been to a cinema in a while, because of this plague. I managed to see Parasite in the theatre right before the world closed down. I was hoping to see Dune at the end of the year, but the country decided that in the event of a crisis, they want it to be handled by the absolute least competent people available. And wouldn't you know it, a crisis happened. So I'll probably have to wait for Netflix, is what I'm saying. Maybe one day we'll be able to go back to going out of the house and doing things in crowds and such. But until then, let's take a look at another pre-movie cinema ad reel, which I suppose counts as a
have a break
for those of you counting at home. This is actually a compilation of adverts originally put together by one U Multi from various rank advertising reels dating from around 1969 or 1970. So prepare for lashings of shirt frills, soft focus and basic sexism from the outset. See, this is really less an advert than a tone poem about its time and place. It's all imagery. Sunsets, beaches, funky green sleeves, and the alpha couple of 1969 to 1970, brooding quasi-Byronic sideburns man and doe-eyed bikini girl. It has no words whatsoever. I actually had to look it up to find out what it's even advertising, because BSA motorcycles, sadly, haven't been a thing for a long time. They were huge at the other end of the decade, i.e. 1960-odd, in the days of mods and rockers. While the mods scooted down to Brighton in their sharp suits and their quad bikes, the rockers showed up dripping leather on BSA Gold Stars. Well, more usually Tritons, but BSA was popular too. And then they beat the shit out of each other. So yeah, the rocker image is obviously dead and gone by 1969, judging by Jason King here, studded leather driving gloves notwithstanding. But that's just a symptom of a wider malaise for BSA, as the American and Japanese brands more or less squeezed them out of their own market through the 60s and on into the 70s. A government bailout at the hands of Triumph didn't work, and the brand eventually disappeared. It's now in the hands of an Indian company who are thinking of reviving it, perhaps banking on a Mad Max apocalypse. Good luck with that. Stop that.
Happiness is all around and it starts right here.
I sometimes quite like Lulu. There's certainly no denying the voice. There's a reason why, of all the 60s girl singers, she had the most longevity. As a singer, anyway. There was Cilla Black, but the continuation of her career was largely based on her not singing anymore. And this being 1969-1970, Lulu's at the peak of her powers. She's one of Britain's biggest recording stars, and she just won Eurovision. Well, it was a 4-way tie, but it still counts. So all in all, an impressive celebrity endorsement for a brand of shoes I've never heard of.
With your feet on the ground, yes, every pair you wear. There's a smile in the style of happy shoes.
Yes, cameras used to explode. I'm not sure that the whole covering the subject in soot in a surprisingly racially insensitive sort of way thing was all that common, though.
Start off a brand new day with love in the air. You can walk a new way 'cause every pair you wear.
It's all gone a bit Ipcris-file. Happy's my choice. I should probably make a Ulysses joke here, but I used them all up on that Irish episode a few months back and they weren't funny then, so. Dawn on the Serengeti. It's the fabled glade of naked ladies, where the makeup flows freely. This is back when the male gaze didn't need justification, analysis, or even noticing particularly. It was just an assumed natural order of things. Ladies are pretty and for looking at. It doesn't even occur to the advertising creatives that there could be any other purpose or utility for them, especially in an advert for makeup, which is of course all part of fulfilling their end of the male gaze bargain.
Watercolor eyeshadows to open your eyes wider. Max Factor discovers the aquafactors. You discover them too.
It all gives rise to an dichotomy, in that this advert is ostensibly aimed at women, the clothing shop directly and unambiguously addresses them, but the entire substance of the thing is full of things for men to look at, i.e. naked ladies. Because while makeup is used and generally purchased by women, it's not actually for them, not to this advert's mind. It's for men. Ladies are pretty and for looking at, and makeup makes them better to look at. Don't hurl bricks at me. I'm not advocating this position at all. I'm just translating it. This is 50 years ago, remember. Second wave feminism is just getting started, and this sort of thing is why.
Every day, a new everyday pleasure.
It's a cinema ad reel, so sooner or later you're going to get an ad for cigarettes. Your local movie theatre was the only place they could advertise the damn things after 1965. With a use certificate, of course.
Benson and Hedges pleasure.
At least in these days they can still promote them like any other product. Silky smooth voiceover talking about pleasure. Fetishistic close-up pack shots. Honey-coloured nature imagery and everything. Within a decade they'll be forced ever deeper into abstraction and obliqueness before being outlawed altogether. It's actually quite startling to see cigarettes advertised using the same basic visual and semiotic grammar as, say, soft drinks. In this particular case, Benson and Hedges, promoting their Virginia Slim range, trying to go in the vague direction of the Marlboro sort of idea. Big sky country, open plains, plaintive twanging music, which unfortunately goes out the window once the arrangement picks up and reveals that rather than a full country and western orchestra with fiddles and pedal steel, they could only afford a Fairlight CMI and maybe a Weetabix box with a hole cut out in the middle and some elastic bands drawn across.
Virginia Red, 5 and 2 for 20. Virginia Blue, 4 shillings for 20. 2 new cigarettes with gifts.
Oh yeah, and free gifts. But they won't say what they are. Some form of certificates, apparently. Probably for more cigarettes.
Benson and Hedges pleasure at everyday prices.
It's that old hippie highway. There's 2 tricks here. One is to figure out what this is an advert for. Oh yeah, I guess he was wearing jeans. Okay then. The other trick is to remind yourself that this is contemporary up-to-the-minute imagery they're using here, because you could, and probably would, have seen a near-identical advert in 1994 or so, which would play out exactly the same down to the camera angles and editing. It would have been superficially indistinguishable, apart from the picture quality. And even then the 1994 version would probably have been distressed a little for stylistic reasons. It would probably even also be for jeans. Failing that, some self-consciously blue-collar American beer. The sole difference is that the version from 25 to 30 years later would have used the exact same narrative imagery and design in the service of nostalgia. Here, and it's quite dizzying to contemplate this if you lived through that phase of advertising nostalgia like I did, it's contemporary up-to-the-minute high fashion. Well, probably shortly after the minute, to be honest. By the time adverts have hitched themselves to a particular bandwagon, it's usually on its way out of town. But the point is, it was still rolling. It takes a conscious effort to remind yourself that they're not trading on hippie imagery to be nostalgic or ironic, because at this point it's neither. If anything, they're being quite tragically sincere. Replace the camper van with a lowrider, the strumming acoustic soundtrack with some hiccuping trap music, and the hippies with, I don't know, Gucci Mane surrounded by some pneumatic airbrushed Instagram models. You'd probably have more or less the same thing for right now. Maybe. I don't know. I'm old.
Martini.
Ma bloody teeny. Yes, they've pretty much always advertised like this. Beautiful, rich people at play, with very slight differences depending on what that phrase conjured up at any given moment. It's what it looked like in 1970, for example.
Martini.
Yes, there was a time when inflatable pool chairs were sophisticated and cool.
Martini. Martini. Martini.
That's about it, really. If you've seen any given frame from this advert, you've seen the whole thing. Lots of sexy people splashing about in a pool in Monaco or Los Angeles or wherever, Wedding Garden City maybe, while a vaguely foreign woman says the product's name a few times so you don't forget, and a generic brassy upbeat tune lapses inexplicably into Frere Jacques out of sheer confusion. Eventually a male voice shows up to pick up the slack because important things have to be said by men.
Martini, the drink you like to drink. Martini.
Important things, like the single most thunderously banal statement I've ever heard on an advert, and that is an impressive achievement. Unsurprisingly, after that, the whole thing just throws up its arms and leaves. The 60s. Teens in brightly coloured outfits doing West Side Story dance routines to supermarket jazz in and around brutalist architecture. I'm not going to lie, there's something beautiful about that concept. And what is it they're so excited about? Smiths. W.H. Smith, that is, one of those British high street staples that look set to go the way of British home stores and Woolworths. It was looking none too clever before the plague, so it's surely doomed without a government bailout of some kind, and they're neither a bank nor are they run by members of the Buddington Club, so they can whistle for it. And that's a shame, because there's a lot of history there. It was established in 1792. It's the oldest retail chain in the world. In fact, it invented the concept. I'll have to do a not brand X on them one day, maybe in the new year, unless I forget or we all die. Besides, it's a neat shop, a department store squeezed into a newsagent's, and one of the only places you can go for things that, with the best will in the world, you still use and need even now. The things the store pictured here mentions above the door. Things like paper, and rulers, pencil sharpeners, and foolscap binders and the like. Tremendously dull things which they rarely, if ever, bring up in the advertising, preferring to concentrate, as here, on the entertainment side of the business. Books, DVDs and Blu-rays and music. Mostly books in this day and age, but you can still find shiny discs of various sorts in the larger stores. Tea and Fanny.
Good night, everybody.
No, really, I'm done. I don't actually have much to say about this advert. It's just that our opening caption made it obligatory.
Take a fresh look at tea.
For the record, it's a performance from all-girl rock group Fanny, endorsed by the likes of Lol George and Dave Bowie of the Dave Bowie Band, overdubbed with random testimonies in praise of tea.
When do you think is the best time of day to drink tea? Well, we'll start first thing in the morning and go right the way through to the last thing at night.
Oh, I love it. I drink it all the time.
You drink a lot of it? Oh, yeah. 3 pints a day.
The lack of any apparent connection between the two elements makes for a decent piece of absurdist video art, if not a particularly compelling advertisement for the best drink of the day. Incidentally, they were American, so they thought they were just named after the arse.
Take a fresh look at tea. It's the most refreshing drink in the world.
Well, that's over. Now you can enjoy the film. After another 20 minutes of trailers, of course. At least that's how it shakes out these days. Plus a reminder to turn off your goddamn phone, of course, you bastards. Although that's not a modern thing, it's just modern packaging on an old message. Before the advent of the ringtone, it was much more straightforward and amounted to a simple shut the fuck up. Sage advice. I've wanted to light a lot of people on fire in my life, but the one who came closest to have it actually happen was a prick who insisted on reciting every word of the script of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy seconds before it came round in the film. Enjoy the movie, in silence, or die.
There's nothing on TV. He took her to a movie, but she's the one for me. He took her to a movie.
You've been watching a Bob the Fish production. Thanks! If you haven't found it already, be sure to check out our website at bobthefish.org.uk. Literally hundreds of videos not unlike this one that will make you laugh, think and realise new things or your money back. Which works out great because they're all absolutely free. All of this is possible thanks to the not unique way that Bob the Fish productions are paid for by you, the viewing public, via Patreon. For a donation of as little as £1 a month, not only do you ensure that I still have food and shelter so I can carry on making these programmes, but you could become eligible for a whole host of cool extras. New video essays, special event live streams, all my content a week in advance, and my book on the history of the BBC, Rule the Waves, chapter by chapter as it's written. And some cake, if you go out and buy a cake and eat it while you're watching. And if you don't want to support on a monthly basis, you can make a one-off donation via coffee. It all helps stave off scurvy. bobthefish.org.uk. You make it what it is.